Now we move on to agenda item J, business. J1, Councilmember Belwomany's request to discuss police community relations.
What I wanted to bring to the council's attention and the public's attention tonight is methods by which we can improve police and community relations that are going on in other places and that we might look at. Next slide. Over the last few years, the city has experienced unrest over allegations of misconduct by police officers, and these allegations have increased mistrust of the police, and there's a sense of adversarial relationship between some members of the citizens of Merced and the police. A lack of trust and a lack of cooperation between the police and the citizens is always bad. It benefits criminals and criminal activity and thus reduces the safety of everyone in Merced. So there's this long delay in acting on a complaint, at least potentially a long delay, and the basis that the disciplinary action may or might occur, I think, is not reassuring to citizens. It's frustrating to citizens. In order to address improving community relations in Merced between the police and the community, especially certain segments of the community, I would recommend that the council direct staff to prepare a report regarding the following 4 items. Revisions to the police department procedures to conform with changes in state law. And 2, revisions to the police department citizens complaint procedure and form to improve responsiveness. So those are both relate to these 2 laws that changed in regards to having to release information from audios and videotapes, and also having to release information of police investigations in regards to more serious confrontations.
Like is stated in the report that Mr. Belwomany did, there's been, not just here in Merced, but nationally, there's a lot of conversations around police and community relations. And I think that as a city and as our leaders, I think that we should really be proactive about taking steps to making sure that those concerns are addressed.
First and foremost, I call you Mr. B because I always pronounce your name wrong. So I say, Councilmember B, thank you for bringing this issue up. This is near and dear to many of our communities in their heart. I think it's out of the box thinking, which we need a lot more of here in Merced City.
So I've been coming to this council for the last few years in regards specifically to police community issues. I've sat here with folks that have been directly impacted by violence by law enforcement from MPD. And I just kind of wanted to shout out some of those names. March 27, 2017, 15-year-old Armando Ortiz, had his skull cracked open and had 7 staples in his head by Officer Wilkins. Just a few months later, on July the 9th of 2017, we also had the hookah lounge incident with some of the same officers that were present there beating that 15-year-old boy. And again, in March of this year, we had the William Colbert incident over on Highway 140 at AM/PM, again with some of those same officers listed, Opinski, Wilkins, to name a few, along with McComb. And in regards to citizens' complaints, and it's obvious we know as a community, the people that are system impacted, they felt this tension for quite a while. I have sat in the office when Chief Goodwin was still a lieutenant, submitting citizens' complaints to him as he was internal affairs. I mean, it's been years. It's been going on for quite some time.
So I'm here just to stand in support of what has been shared so far, and I'm excited about the new state legislation such as the Senate Bill 1421 and the Assembly Bill 748 that mandates timely release of data and recordings from police interactions, and I'm hopeful that Merced can work together to get that data to its citizens in a really accessible and timely way.
It's not just the police having to engage more, it's also the community having to treat police in a better way too, because we see it all the time. They don't treat police with respect. So that said, and then again, if you look at the national conversation, you have both sides just throwing grenades at each other, and both sides saying, you did that. Police officers pointing at all the officers who were shot at and killed. And then people on the other side talking about all the people who've been victimized by officers. So you just have two sides throwing each other's misdeeds at each other, and it leads to an unproductive conversation. That's where the over-politicization of this comes in as well. And I think there needs to be a more constructive conversation where both sides realize there's going to be mistakes made. There's going to be infringements made by both sides, but we have to come together in the middle, come together over shared goals, and work on those. And looking nationwide too, you got to admit, we're in relatively decent shape in this community with policing and with police-community relations. It's a lot worse in other places. It's certainly not perfect here, and I've seen it myself many times, but we're in pretty good shape. Our number one concern is probably, we hear it, is response times. That's probably, if anything, the biggest complaint we hear. But again, the issues that you guys raise are all legitimate issues. I don't think anybody wants police that act in those manners. But again, there's a big concern with over-politicizing the police. I'm not sure if an advisory board does that, but I think there's a huge tendency if we go that far, and I don't know if we need to go that far, then it's going to do that. And I would support, I think, a strategy for community engagement and for police-community relations is important. I think we need it. And I'm for something, but I think we need to bring the police department on board. I think we have to be wary not to, create something that's going to over-politicize police issues. And, in those general comments, I think it's all.
Yeah, Councilmember Bowman.
Yeah, the proposal is not to direct the police department to change specifically in any way. It's to direct staff, the police department, the city attorney, and the city manager to research these various things, revisions to the police procedures, the complaint procedure, and additional training and an advisory board, and then come back to us and tell us, after researching that, what they think would be a good thing to do in Merced. So I think we still are putting staff in the driver's seat in terms of moving forward on this item. What we're doing as a council is saying that this is an important item that needs to be dealt with, and we'd like to have some kind of a response back by the end of January. So with that, I would make a motion to direct staff to prepare a report regarding the three items that are listed in the memo from me to the council that is this agenda item.
You may not have a second to that, but is there a second? So if there's not a second, then we'll have another motion. I see a lack of a second.
I think that the language that you have here is a little bit too insistent on what should be done. And what I was only looking for is those particular three things that you have mentioned: the progress on changing to the different laws, the potentiality if revisions were necessary for that language change, and the possibility of how those would have community advisory boards if those were implementable. All I was looking for was that when he gives his report, that he can mention those things as well and discuss those things about what he thinks would be best for Merced. Not that he should be directed to implement these things or carry out the implementation thereof. It's simply to tell us these three things. What's the progress on that? Are some of these things implementable, or would it mess up some other things that are already happening? The practicality of it is what I was getting at.
Yeah, there's nothing in here that says you implement anything. I mean, the report could come back and say none of these things will work. I mean, that would be a possibility. It simply says that they research these things, think about how they might work in Merced.
Prepare a report regarding revisions. And I think what council is saying is that we're not aware yet what type of revisions, or if it's really, or if some things are good to go yet. It's like if you tell somebody you got to make changes, then they make changes. But what if there are other things we don't know yet, and that's why it is what it is? And I think that's what some council members are saying. What I'm getting at is I would like to hear from the police regarding those issues before I say, okay, then let's do this implementation, or let's do this revision.
Right. Okay. So there's lack of a second for this language that's in the written proposal. I will now make a motion. My motion is that we direct the police chief to come back and educate us on the things that are happening to the efforts to improve community relations in our city, and his proposals on how to not only implement their plan to implement the changes in state law, but also improve their interactions with our residents. And that, should include topics like the ones that have been addressed tonight.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I'll call for the question.
I have a motion by Mayor Murphy and a second by Councilmember Pedroso. Mayor and council, please cast your votes. Motion unanimously carries.